Welcome back to Good Better Broker as we bring in Patton Gade. He is the National Director of the Military Lending Division at UMortgage, and he is based out of Phoenix, Arizona. Patton, great to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Justin. I appreciate you.
Well, you have an incredible resume, so I just want to tell our listeners a bit about you. You are one of the top VA mortgage loan originators in the country. This is your 10th year in the industry, so
right.
Happy 10 years in the mortgage business. You're a West Point graduate and an Army veteran, and you are also a former retail LO. So all that said, Patton, you are heavily focused on the VA loan, and in your time in the business, tell us what's been your approach to helping veterans get into homes.
Well, first of all, I mean, it's very near and dear to my heart. I mean, obviously, I was named after a general. My little brother is named, his middle name is MacArthur. So we have this family history. And so veterans just in general are important to me. And that's all my friends and family are basically veterans. And so when I learned about the VA loan, and then I learned how poorly it's done in most places and how little people know about it. That spurred me to get better and better and better at it. And then also, those are just the people I connect with best. If I'm talking to a veteran, we instantly have a bond and a trust with each other. So that's kind of how I got into that and made it my passion.
In doing some research on you online, I really liked this line that your team has a remarkable history of overcoming obstacles to ensure all veterans have access to home ownership. What does that mean to you?
Well, what it means is that everybody on my team, I literally have a team of 14 people, and they're all veterans, every single one of them. So we've all served, and we all know we've walked a mile in those shoes, so to speak. And so we know that the challenges that are going on behind the scenes with the family, what's happening with the wife, right? So we can really connect with them. And as they're moving across the country to someplace they've never been, maybe never visited before, and all of a sudden they're going there. So we've lived those lives, and it's just, we connect with those people, right? And we love them, and they're just part of who we are. So
you've lived those lives, and you also speak that language.
That's right.
Tell me how important that is to speak the language of the military when it comes to doing a VA loan.
Well, I think it's just supernatural for us to use the lingo, right? And so if you're a loan officer and you don't understand what a PCS is, I mean, that's just basically what's happening to that active duty person. And a permanent change of station is going on, and it's uprooting everything about their lives. It's uprooting their kids and their families and the friendships that they have, and it's going off into this new and exciting world. And having lived that, it's much easier to connect when you've lived it and you speak the same language.
In those situations, a PCS like you just described, I mean, the impact not just on the person, but also, like you said, the family, and being able to have a real conversation and know that they identify with you, and also your team. I mean, what is the impact of that?
Well, I mean, I think it's invaluable. I think I don't go searching out other loan officers to join my team if they haven't served, because it's that important to me that people understand and they understand the spouse especially. Because when you're talking to a spouse that is literally maybe doing this on her own, like I've done loans for people where the service member is deployed, he's overseas in Germany or whatever, and the spouse is moving across the country, uprooting 3-4 kids. And I mean, if you haven't done it, you don't know, right?
Man, that's impactful stuff. When we first talked, you said, and this number is just staggering to me, there are 20 million veterans in the United States, and only 13% of them have used their VA loan.
That's right.
What is that? What's the explanation for that, Pat?
Well, my explanation is this. I think loan officers did a pretty poor job of doing VA loans in the past. So 10, 15 years ago, the VA loan got a bad rap in the real estate world, right? We've all seen it. We've all heard it. Oh, my seller doesn't want to take a VA loan. So realtors kind of have pushed people away from VA loans. And I think what happened was that actually a loan officer would originate a loan and not know the little nitty-gritty details, whether it be residual income or some sort of income calculation with rental properties or what have you, that's a little bit different than a conventional loan. So they just did it the same way. What happens is it gets to the underwriter denies the loan, and then what's the originator going to do? They're going to go to the borrower, and they're going to go to the realtors, and they're going to say, oh, I'm sorry, the VA denied your loan. Because that's the easy thing. There's this big, bureaucracy. And so what happened is everybody went, oh yeah, the bad VA, they're terrible, because the LO didn't have the intestinal fortitude to just be honest and say, hey, I made a mistake. So they blame it on the VA, and that stuck. And so now I think that's what we're fighting against now is you have to do it right. And who you work with matters. Like 90% of loan officers do fewer than 3 VA loans annually. So there are very few people that are actually truly good at it.
So you're big on debunking
That's right.
the VA loan, and you also believe, Patton, that the VA loan is the best loan product on the market.
Yes, sir.
Tell us why.
100%. So it's going to be the best. If you're eligible for a VA loan, it's probably the best loan for you in about 99% of cases. I think it gives, as an originator, it gives me a ton of flexibility, especially if a borrower is, let's say they're putting down 5% in order to get the lower funding fee. And then let's say that the appraisal comes in a little bit low. I can just shift and put that 5% towards an appraisal gap if I need to, and still finance 100% of the lower number. And everybody's happy, the seller's happy, the buyer's happy, we just move on. Nothing really changed. So it gives me a lot of flexibility as an originator. Plus, you can go to higher debt ratios. It's got some more flexibility for maybe some credit missteps in the past. So you can really help people that maybe can't be helped in any other way.
You joined the broker channel and you mortgage in October of 2023. And for you, Patton, one of the biggest reasons was to really build something from the ground. So tell us, what are you building?
Well, what we're building, we're gathering up a team of absolute studs and studettes that are great at VA loans. And the culture of the organization is absolutely fantastic. I've never seen a group of people that are more willing to reach out and help people all across the country, even if you've never met. People are supporting you, helping you grow. You get better every day. That's one of our sayings, and people live it. So that's what we're building. We're gonna go after some of the big dogs in the VA world, and change the way people look at VA loans.
To be able to put your fingerprints on this and really do it the way you want to, and taking all of your experience, both as a veteran yourself and as a mortgage loan originator, I mean, how do you describe what that means to you?
It's foundational to who I am. I mean, I wake up living, breathing veterans and VA loans. I mean, it really is. I have dreams about VA loans, and it's kind of sad. I get it, but that's literally what I do every day. I mean, probably 85% of my business is VA. My branch is about 85%. I mean, it's who we attract and what we do, and it's just become a core part of who I am, and I just absolutely love that part.
A couple minutes ago, I mentioned that you're big on debunking some of the myths that exist about the VA loan, and you walked us through why you think this is the best product out there. Patton, how do you describe the void that exists in the industry when it comes to just simple education about the VA loan in general?
Well, part of the problem is you go online and there's just so much wrong information out there. And there are people that are doing TikToks that go viral that are just flat out wrong. So you're fighting against some of the built up stuff that's just not factual. And then the realtors that have been around for a long time and have never done a VA loan. Talked to a guy this morning. He goes, yeah, I did a VA loan 8 years ago. That was the last one I did. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll hold your hand through it. We'll be okay. And so that's, I don't know, I kind of lost my space there.
That's all right. No, so I mean that right there, that example of that realtor, I mean that kind of describes that void that for some people,
for sure,
it's simply just been a while.
Yeah.
And it's not something that they do all the time.
Yeah, and that's why I go back to it matters who you work with, right? As a buyer, as a realtor, and especially in this niche. And so you got to have somebody that can hold your hand and tell you, like, this was a particular one was a condo. And I'm like, okay, is it VA approved already? And they had no idea. Like, well, what's that mean? What do you? And I'm like, okay, settle down. We'll figure that out. So it's a lot of fun helping people through those situations.
When we first spoke, you said that there are certain things that are just different with VA loans. Yep. What do you mean by that?
Well, the appraisal process, for one. I mean, realtors like to think that the appraisal process is horrible, but it's probably the best process of any mortgage product. And the reason I say that is it gives the gives you two opportunities as a realtor to actually affect the value. The first one is if the appraiser thinks it's going to come in low, he issues a tidewater notice. That simply means, hey, it's going to come in low, and we get an opportunity to give comps and impact the appraised value before the appraiser puts the value on it. And then if that doesn't work and it still comes in low, then you have the reconsideration of value process. So it's got processes in place that make it better, but that's one of the little nuances of it. And then another one would be it doesn't really go off debt to income ratio. It more matters that there's money left over at the end of every month to pay the other bills, so that we call that residual income. And that's a calculation that people don't really know about very much unless they do a lot of VA loans.
So this team you're building, I want to learn a bit more about them. The veterans that you have that are out there originating loans, helping veterans, what common traits would you say they share?
You know what? Work ethic is probably one of the biggest. And then just the trust that they're able to build, right? Those are some of the core competencies of the people on this team. These are guys that have been to war. I mean, we have guys that are still serving in the reserves and National Guard and things like that. So these are people that have spent their whole life in service of their country, and so that service-mindedness is something that I think is pretty unique to veterans in general. Not necessarily unique to veterans in general, but it's a different level of commitment to, when you're in a foxhole fighting for your life, you're not fighting for your country at that point. You're fighting for the people on your left and right. And so that's the kind of feeling that we have on our team. People are fighting for each other and fighting for their borrowers, because that's the person in the foxhole with you.
And those are the people, after they get out of the service and become mortgage loan originators, they're the ones that have that true passion, right, for helping the veteran borrowers. I mean, in your mind, how important is that to have that true passion for helping veterans?
Well, gosh, I mean, if you don't really truly care about it, if you think a veteran is just any other borrower, I think you're making a mistake. I think like we had an instance a while back with a particular loan, and my call was to the CEO, and I go, hey, here's what we need to do. One of the LOs called me and said, I got this issue, how do I solve it? And I'm like, I don't think there's a way to solve it, but we need to make this loan happen. And it was, we came out of pocket essentially as an organization to make sure that this loan closed on time to get that veteran. I don't know if that happens if you don't truly care about a veteran in a different sense than maybe some other borrowers types.
When you're out there talking to potential recruits for your team, I mean, is that something that you're keenly aware of in these conversations? How much they truly care about the veteran?
I think you can see. I think you can read people and see their heart, right, a little bit. When you're talking to them, you can see if they truly care. And it's not necessarily that we don't want non-veteran originators. We do. We like them just as much, as long as they have a passion for veterans. And there's a lot of people that didn't serve, that maybe they come from a family of service members. Their parents were, in the Vietnam War or whatever. Or at this point, I mean, you could have parents that were in the Gulf War, essentially. And so as long as they have that passion, like, come on, let's go.
Back to our earlier point about lack of education and lack of awareness, and even amongst veterans themselves, I think our listeners would be curious to hear this, Patton. You only learned that you had taken out a VA loan for your first home purchase after you had become a mortgage loan originator.
Yeah, 20 years later. Yeah, I did. My first home purchase, I think, was 99. Then I became a loan originator in 2014. And I thought to myself, well, I'm just going to pull my COE. I pulled my COE and I went, wait a minute. I've used a VA loan before? Are you kidding me? Had no idea. So it's that just speaks volumes to, like, service members don't know what they don't know. And so getting in and educating the consumer themselves is a whole separate issue. But you got the realtors we got to educate, we got service members we got to educate, and then we got loan officers we got to educate too. So it's kind of a three-pronged approach.
Yeah, where do you start with that? Because, like you said, there is so much opportunity there. In a perfect world, how would you do it?
I mean, how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. You just start, and you stay committed to it, and it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's something, overnight success is never an overnight success, right? It took a lot of work to get there. And so I hope 5 years from now we look back and go, man, we were an overnight success. in building this juggernaut of VA loan originators and an organization that does amazing things. And people think it's an overnight success, but there's going to be a lot of work that goes into it.
On an industry level, where are we in terms of destigmatizing some of the myths about the VA loan, and how do we get to where we need to be?
Where we need to be is 100% destigmatized. Where we are is probably 5% destigmatized. There's a long way to go as an industry. I mean, it's incumbent on, if you're going to do VA loans, if you're just going to dabble in them, it's incumbent on you to be a professional and get like deep into a VA loan and know what it's all about. And I think when people do that, then they develop a passion for the customer. It's a different customer. It really is. The conversations you have and the stories I hear of people that are, I talk to people that immigrated to the United States as children, and because of their love for the country, they just wanted to wear a uniform. And so those kind of stories, and it's something that sometimes I just sit there and go, wow, I get to serve this person. That's amazing. That's fun.
That's goosebump stuff right there, to hear about that immigrant who cares so much for this country that they came to, that they want to put on a uniform and fight for the country. That's just incredible.
And then we can do a VA loan for them and pay them back for some of the sacrifice they made.
Absolutely. To wrap it up, Patton, I want to ask you, for our listeners, people that are hearing this and they want to better serve the veterans in their market, they want to better educate themselves so that they can truly do this the right way. What direction would you point them in?
Well, they could reach out to me, for one. I'd be happy to educate. We're building a whole network of training for realtors. We're in the process of building this right now for realtor training, LO training, borrower training. Like I said, it's a three-pronged approach, and we're going to be launching a lot of that stuff in the coming weeks and months, and we're going to make an impact on this market.
There's no doubt about it. Well, we appreciate you joining us. We thank you for your service and for the service you are providing for all of the veterans out there who are looking to become homeowners. Patton Gade from UMortgage, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
Thank you for watching Good Better Broker and helping us support independent mortgage brokers everywhere. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to be notified about new videos, as well as your preferred podcast platform for a new episode every other Tuesday.